All right. Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Learning Tech Talks. It's been a double header this week, and we are live today. We're exploring the landscape of learning technology while cutting through the fluff and getting your questions answered as we navigate this ever complex digital ecosystem that is what we're dealing with. And so today I am joined by Udi Hazan and Ido Miran, correct? And they're from Enabley. I think I did a pretty good job there on the name thing. And we are talking about Enabley. We're going to talk about frontline workers. We're going to talk about all sorts of good stuff. So looking forward to getting that rolling. If you're just joining us now, feel free to like the post, share it, tag in somebody who is tackling these similar challenges. And as we're getting rolling, feel free to comment and let us know where you are in the world today. I'm in my usual spot in sunny. It is sunny, but it is not warm. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Let's see. Let's go. Well, let's go down first. Ido, where are you?
I'm right in the middle between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, in the center of Israel.
Okay.
Near the airport. Near the airport.
So we might hear a plane.
Doesn't help me a lot these days, but I'm near.
At least if things ever change, at least you know it's there. It's available.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about you, Udi?
I'm located a bit northern than Tel Aviv. It's called Benjamina, and it's a small city, I would say, northern than Tel Aviv. Great weather. It's the evening here.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, I was going to say it looks a little darker. So it's my morning, your evening. You know, my lighting definitely works. It works better at my time. All right. So with that, before we get into the discussion, and I'm looking forward to hearing the history and the background between Time to Know, then Enabley, and everything that we're going to get into. But the question unrelated to the topic at hand is, what is the most interesting job you've ever had? And again, I gave a lot of latitude with how you could answer this. So I'm going to reverse the order, and we're going to go with Udi first. Let's hear it. Like, what's the most interesting job you've ever had?
So 20 years ago, after a few years of service, I lived for a while and worked as a diving instructor in Koh Tao Island in Thailand. So that was quite a time, I would say.
How long did you do diving instruction?
4 months.
Okay.
4 months,
okay.
And
was that something you picked up, or from the time that you can't talk about in the military, did you learn diving stuff, and then you decided, you know what? Hey, I'm going to do this on a hobby end.
It was a hobby. I think I just traveled for a few months in Asia, and I was doing it as a hobby first. And then I decided, let's try it a bit more professional, but it was clear for me that it's for a few months to experience it, and then went back to the grown-up stuff, you know.
The grown-up stuff. Come on, you know. So do you still dive as a hobby then? Are you still a diver as a hobby?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not, but I have to say my favorite hobby is rock climbing, and I'm still doing that all the time.
Okay, but you never did that as a job. That never grew into a job.
Okay. No. In this area, I try not to mix business and pleasure.
Okay. Well, if you love rock climbing and deep sea diving, Milwaukee, Wisconsin is not the best place to visit. So I would not recommend that here. We have other hobbies here that have nothing to do with that. Okay. Got it. All right. Ido, you're up. Let's hear it. What is the most interesting job you've ever had?
Yeah. So like about 15, maybe 17 years ago, when I was 10, maybe,
okay.
So it was a regular job. I was in a telecom vendor company. And then it turned out to be a little bit different. And I found myself in southern Argentina, in Patagonia, around these amazing, the edge of the earth with glaciers and amazing nature, with my job bringing me there to handle voice compression systems that run on satellite communication. And I found myself roaming around Patagonia and getting paid for it. It was amazing.
Okay. And you decided not to stick. You decided to do something else after that. How long did you do that?
Oh, well, there, a couple of weeks here and there. Yeah. So I did clean pools when I was 17, but it was less. It was less. There were some other interesting stuff there, but
okay,
it was
all right.
different.
Cleaning pools,
Different.
Argentina. You've got quite the portfolio. And somebody messaged me. They said I'm lagging a little bit. So if I'm lagging, my apologies for the delay. Okay, got it. Well, we've got some interesting backgrounds. So mine, I was torn. I was torn a little bit on these two. So I did grow up. My parents were funeral directors. So I did help out in the funeral home with my dad. That was like my job growing up. The one I decided actually I thought was most interesting was in college, in summers, I worked in construction building golf courses. It was actually pretty fun. I would travel around. I got to drive all the big equipment and do all this stuff, and I would build golf courses. So yeah, before the days of learning and technology, I drove Caterpillar D8s and carved out fairways and greens. Yeah, it was pretty fun. Okay, cool. Well, anyway, so let's shift gears. Let's get out of the talk of jobs, although jobs can be fun stuff too. But let's hear, so tell me a little bit about the backstory, because I guess when people hear Enabley, they may know it as Time to Know. They may know it as Enabley. First of all, what's the story? And you both can share, your perspective, but then also, how do you describe it to people? When people say, so what does the product do? How do you explain that?
So I would say 15 years ago, more or less, our first owners and the co-founders of Time to Know, that's how it started, they've done some great things, and they decided after a lot of success with the current companies they had, they decided to have, I would say, philanthropic initiative to bring technology to classrooms, to K-12 classrooms. That's how it started. They decided it doesn't make sense and that still we are teaching the same way and we are a startup nation. Let's do something about that. Let's give back to society. And then they invested a lot. If you Google up, you will find the figures of a few years ago. They invested a lot in building innovative technology that will allow schools teachers to teach with and use advanced technology and deliver knowledge to students. Then it grew to universities, and it grew to companies. And along the years, we've done several pivots. We've done several changes. We split the company. Now there is a different company who focus on bringing technologies to K-12. That is not related to us anymore, I would say. But the main company who was doing the R&D and the development is still us, Time to Know, with I would say until last December, Enabley since last December. In last December, by the way, 3 years ago, we decided to focus on corporate training.
Okay.
And this is the main focus of the company since then. And as I would say in last December, the company was acquired. And when it was acquired, we've done some rebranding to Enabley, formerly Time to Know. And we are focusing on corporate training. In corporate training, we are focusing on the core of the training, and also training and learning. And also one of the main use cases is the front line of the company, and outside from the company, extending the training to the outside of the company, to different functions that are related to the company.
So it got its start in K-12. That part I didn't know. So it started in academia, then grew into kind of university, and now it's shifted and pivoted more towards corporate employee development.
Actually, correct. The story that I heard, at least, like both Udi and I are like more than 3 years in the company. But the story that I heard that I like is that it started as this project in the southern part of Israel, where there are the Bedouin minorities and these areas that are like underserved typically back then, and getting into the classrooms there and helping those that community. And it started as this small project, and then it gradually expanded to a learning technology company.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a huge success. This project ended with a huge success that made the co-founders deciding to scale it up to North America, to Asia, to Latin America, and not only Israel at the time.
And you both have been there how long? 3 years, about-ish?
3 years, more or less.
More than 3.
Yeah.
Okay. So then,
just started. We just started, Christopher.
This is our first week, and we're here on Learning Tech Talk talking about it. Got it. Okay, so you've been here for a bit. You've seen the journey. You've been on the journey for a while, and we talk about. So I guess my other follow-up question to that is it a platform then that people are using? Are you creating content in it? Is it deploying content? How are organizations leveraging it?
So it's a comprehensive SaaS platform that allows easy content creation from current materials such as PDF, PPT, videos, SCORM files, website, what you name it, any format you have. Any asset you have, you can mix it, not just as a file attachment or link. You can mix it in the same place. We can elaborate a bit more about that later. And so it's easy content creation by everyone. We believe in democratization of the knowledge and generation, creation, and also distribution. So not only instructional designers can create it. Any subject matter expert in the company can easily, with a few minutes of training, the system is very self-explanatory, can create content and distribute it to its customers, clients, partners, to his team, to the company. If you are a product manager and you have released, you can create a 5 minutes interactive content and distribute it to the field, to the employees, to your customers. And also,
you can create content in it. And again, going back to, so if I'm understanding correctly, then from a licensing standpoint, or the way it works is it's designed to basically enable the workforce to create and share content through. So it's a content development capability, but then also a distribution and consumption platform.
So the point is that the platform encompasses the entire variety of training and learning in the company. Okay, so one side of it is what Udi described as the content that is created in the company itself, that is company specific, right? Like it concerns your own products and services. There are updates, a new pricing plan, a new version of your product, aligning. There are different use cases. I'm sure we'll discuss them a little bit later on into the hour. But this is one side of the whole range of knowledge that you must have your employees, whether they are frontliners, internal, external, you need to know. And the other side is the classic compliance training, soft skills training and development of your workforce, with some of the content coming from off-the-shelf courses that you can combine within the same platform. So the idea is that you have one platform that serves both HR, L&D needs and business units needs in a holistic way, instead of having disparate different platforms for different use cases.
Got it. So on the front line, because let's define this, because again, a lot of the branding or a lot of the marketing that I've seen around Enabley and Time to Know is around those frontline workers. And so obviously that was an intentional portion of the strategy, not necessarily saying that's the only place to use, but that is heavily where you're seeing opportunity, why the decision to do that, and how is that actually enabling? Creative name, by the way, right? Enabley. How is it better enabling? Yeah. The front lines. Why is it working so effectively?
So let's first define who are the frontliners. Frontliners are customer support departments, customer success, product teams, everyone that works with partners, customers, and with the front line of the company, I would say.
Contact center agents.
Call centers, agents. and those frontliners need to move fast in terms of knowledge distribution. Also, we see if you are talking about call centers, the churn there is very high, so there is a need to onboard quickly people, to update them all the time on promotions, on the product, on competitors. If your competitor released something, they need to know it right away and how to deal with it. And you need to make sure that the field is receiving this knowledge. If it's an insurance company, pharmaceutical company, technology company, if you released something new, everyone needs to know about it and how to promote it. So the platform enables this use case while using several capabilities. The first one is the easy content creation, as we mentioned before. It can be from scratch, and it can be from current content that you have, existing content that the companies already have. And some more capabilities is we have, in addition to the courses, we have capability that's called streams. Stream, when you create a new content, and the system asks you, is it a course? Is it a stream? Stream, it's like an area where you can push information to the field. And we saw that most of the use cases when a company needs to create content, they don't need a fancy content to send it to instructional designer or a third party to create fancy content. There is a need for that as well, and the system can create some fancy stuff.
Not all the time.
Not all the time, and I would say in many cases there is a need to quickly deploy something, and the system supports that. You can, as I said, many SMEs can quickly create content and distribute it.
So I'm curious. I'm going to stop you there, and just so you know, this is the flow of the conversation. When you say something, I'll probably just be like, "Wait, hang on, before you go, let me dive into that." And I'll go back to something that you said, but I'll wait on this one because I'm curious. So you're delineating between content and stream, right? That's kind of a distinction between that. And I think one of the points you hit on that is an important one is there is this differentiation of, hey, right, we've got this formal thing. It has more of a shelf life. It's something that we can put a little.
Exactly.
And then there's this stuff that's like, we need to move fast. This just needs to get out there. It's not necessarily something that needs to live forever because it's more about getting the window of time and hitting that window of time and being able to execute against that very quickly. So how does it differentiate other than conceptually, I get that, but how is it actually categorizing or making it clear that that's how you're doing it?
So I want to give an example, if I may.
Yeah.
So we thank you, Christopher. So we're, some of our clients are, for example, insurance companies, right? And, we've seen this quite a lot that they have this in the insurance domain. You have these agents, right? So they can be independent agents. They can be some of them your own. And in the insurance world, you have things that are disrupting it. There are new regulations, right? That suddenly, they come up, and you have to align all of your field, your frontline, the people that are selling insurance products to end customers. They should be aware of that regulation. So typically, and this is we're being said that all the time. Typically, it takes around 3 months from the time that a regulation is out until these people are properly trained. Because you have to create a course, right? And then there are these experts, instructional designers. They build the course. They have these iterations. Eventually, it's out there. And during that time, you are either losing business or exposing yourself, or both. And what Enabley enables is for that person who is the most knowledgeable about that regulation and responsible for that domain in the company, to very quickly and easily take some templates that maybe the instructional designer of the company created the templates for like a structure. This is how you distribute this kind of knowledge, and quickly take the raw material like a PDF. Probably there are 10 pages of a PDF, right? So bring them into the platform, paste in a video, shoot a video of himself, with his phone, describing for 3 minutes. These are the top things that you have to know tomorrow morning. Embedding that within the PDF, right? Stopping the video and asking a question, just to have an interaction, to make sure that people are paying attention, asking a poll question at the end of the content, and all of this, making that, distributing that at the click of a button, right? Just select, external agents, North District, life insurance. With this,
okay, so in addition to this content, it's actually also helping you easily figure out who am I going to distribute this to. It's a screen that you're just very quickly saying, here's the audience, here's what I need, like boom. So it's not only we're speeding up the process of creating the content, but we're also speeding up the process of distributing it because we have an urgent need.
Exactly. And then, sorry, Udi, and then the last part of it is, sorry, I have a tendency to take over.
I'm enjoying it.
Sorry.
Used to it.
Yeah. So anyway, the last part of this cycle is then, he wakes up, this guy or girl wakes up the next morning and, checks the stats of that small micro-learning piece of content that they shot out through this stream, which is actually kind of a community of practice. It's like this group of people that are that share like the same domain and the same topic in their jobs, and then looks at at the engagement. 80%. These are the people that engaged with the content. They completed it. The time that they spent on the videos, etc. So it's more of also a monitoring tool to understand where the field, your frontline, and any part of the organization, to what extent are they aligned. Maybe there is a whole team in some place of the company that is not aligned to your content, and then they can work on that. So and this is like in opposed to the classic traditional LMS administrative view of you are signing a course to 1,000 people, and then after a month you look at the report. Okay, 70% completion. Let's send another email, push it up to 89%, and you have your report.
Behind stream versus content, even on the reporting, and it also sounds like from a user experience standpoint, the end user gets the distinction that hey, a stream has been pushed to you, which just from your behavior says this is something that's important. You need to pay attention to this because it's critical and it's timely. So there's almost a distinction between, okay, there's content, which is for your ongoing development or training, or there's things you need to do, but then there's streams, which almost, hey, this is urgent, this is high priority, this is stuff you need to have now.
Yeah. Correct. Also, courses, by the way, they are very structured. For example, onboarding of someone to the department, and streams. If you are joining the company or some department, not necessarily you need to go through all the streams from last year. So streams are relevant. There is a different behavior around streams. When you are joining a department or a company, you get a set of courses that you need to complete. But from that moment you were associated with the company or with a specific department, you are starting to consume the knowledge that is being distributed via the streams. So it's a bit different also reporting and a different behavior than the courses. Okay. Now, I wanted to say also something about the other part that you exposed, Christopher. It's not only in content creation, the distribution part, it's also something that is important to the frontline use case. For example, how you onboard your customers and your partners, because not necessarily there are users or you have their relevant details to onboard them to the platform. So there are many ways of onboarding for frontliners to onboard external users. For example, we have guest users, we have store for the platform that people can purchase or just self-register themselves into the platform. If you send them the link or QR code, you can manually do it. You can integrate to relevant platforms, or you can just send the link for self-registration. So there are several ways of onboarding quickly external users and keep them separated from your employees in terms of discussions, chat, and other reports and everything.
Well, it's an important distinction because, again, going back to what we were talking about or where we started this with the frontline workers, especially in some of these different industries and things like that, there is a lot of these roles or individuals that are involved in the work or need to have access to some of this stuff, but they may not necessarily to go through the whole onboarding process of a traditional, right? We need to bring them on as an employee, get them loaded in all our traditionals. That flow of work just a lot of times doesn't move fast enough for the way things are happening. So it sounds like you've accounted for that by saying, well, then we need the platform to be able to accommodate these people that we spin up, spin out very quickly, but they need this relevant information.
Yeah.
Got it.
I would say,
No, go ahead.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Okay, I'll go for
We're
it.
so polite. We're like interrupting, and then we're no, you first. No.
Yeah, we're Israeli, you know, we're polite guys. Anyway, so another aspect, it's just that I'm afraid to forget. I think I'm the oldest guy here, so I think I better put it out and before I forget it. Another point about these streams. So Udi mentioned that you know, when you join a team, you join a company, right? Let's say that you join some the customer support, field engineering, or salesperson or whatever. So when you join, you are automatically assigned to the relevant streams, and of course, courses. That's always the case, but you're automatically assigned. And from that point onwards, anything that comes through that streams, you're consuming, aligning your knowledge. But all of the past content that was pushed in that stream is there for you. So this is and this is super important for retrieval. Like you're in the field. So you take out your mobile and you look for information, and then you come across a so everything is indexed. The content itself is indexed, even the videos. So and then you are finding that for the relevant information in the right time, the just-in-time information, micro-learning, and this is available for all of the workforce. So that's extremely important. And this information it's semi-curated information. Like it's not very formal, heavy courses on the one hand. On the other hand, it's not like a Slack channel where you have a lot of things, a lot of information that you never know. Is this the right one? Is this the most updated one? So it is curated. It is curated
kind
by
of that in between. It's right in that
exactly. It's curated by the
informal.
Okay. Exactly.
In between, it's really, I would say, defining it, because it's also something in between LMS and LXP. It's also, we have a special blend. It's also authoring tool. And so you have something that is, if you ask us who are your competitors, we will say depends on how you look at us and what you need and in what term. Exactly. So it's in between, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. So on this one, because I'm curious, and Lizelle brought up a good point here, and I'm curious on this one. So the risk, and I see this a lot of times when people start talking about the democratization of content, and there are there's risks you have to at least be aware of. Is that when people can just start creating content and pushing it out to people, you run the risk of how are you governing, making sure that this stuff goes out. Now, granted, I think sometimes people way over index and they're afraid people are going to create things and just push. And it's like, well, people are in general not doing that. But I am curious, how does the system govern that a little bit with streams? Because I could see that potentially going off the rails, and pretty soon people are just pushing things all the time and it's not relevant. So is there a way to govern that, or to Lizelle's question, kind of help that get feedback so they know, hey, this wasn't necessarily really that helpful? Or how do organizations deal with that?
So what we have also in the platform is something that's called workspaces. So you can allow some employees to be contributors in workspace and generate content there, and only a specific function in the organization or some functions in the organization has the permission to associate it with a specific stream. And this is, I would say, an approval methodology that can be in place in your organizations where it's needed.
Exactly. So it's really interesting, Christopher, because we see the entire range. Like some of our clients, there are like two people. These are the people authorized, and like either they're not there yet in this journey of democratization, and or it doesn't really fit their their organization, their culture, their need. On the other hand, you see companies. Also around tech, but not just tech, where you have many more people in the company that are given this this permission. Anyone who is like personally, I believe that any employee in the company is an expert in something that is relevant to other people in the company, right? So potentially you could give this permission to all of the employees, right?
Okay.
Typically you see like the head of customer success, okay, has this stream that is managing, or maybe his team of customer success managers, of customer support, regulations, product, whatever. So it really depends on the company who they want to give these keys to.
It sounds like it's controlled. It's controlled through permissions. So again, not just anybody can. And at the organizational level, you can decide how you govern it. And then to Lazelle's point, is there a way for people or authors to get feedback on this through the platform itself, or how is that managed so that they can know, okay, if I'm a content creator and I'm streaming regularly to the field, is there a way for them to get that feedback to say, oh, hey, it's not really hitting, or it is? How are they managing that? I guess you did mention earlier there is some data on, are people actually engaging with this content, but what else is there to help feed and inform that?
I will take it, or you will take it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, so there are some smart alerts that the platform proactively alerts you on things like somebody is not performing or not engaged, and the content. So if there is a piece of content that has, and we have this algorithm that it turns out that this piece of content is more difficult than others, then the owner of that content gets notified, and then can drill down with the reports and see where maybe 3 out of the 5 interactions that are embedded within that content are either too difficult, or maybe people are actually finding it difficult to understand that content. So it's not about just sticking this guy has run the training, right? You want to really make sure that people understand the content, and then they can do something about it. They can contact exactly that group of people that had difficulty with that content, or they can
see, you can actually see from an analytics standpoint who's engaging with this content, and the analytics behind
not only via the reports. It's it's actionable insights. So the system raise flags and say, for example, this content is not being used by those users, or this content is difficult for those users. But I think in addition to what Ido said, in each content you have a button, give feedback to the instructor or the content creator. For example, I don't agree with this point, it's not updated to procedure, blah blah blah. So the end user can look back and feedback the content creator and the instructor or the associated person with the feedback from the field.
Okay. That I think the combination of all that, hopefully, Lazelle, that answers your question, because I think it hits it from a couple different angles, right? You've got the traditional reports that are telling you what's happening, the things that are happening there. I like it. So you're saying these actionable insights. There's something, I'm not going to throw buzzwords like AI and things around like that, but right, there's something that's actually looking at the data and then saying, hey, here's some insights that you can take from the way we're seeing people interacting with this, so that you can get some feedback on that. And then from the end user, the feedback loop is they can actually then communicate back to the stream content owner and say, this wasn't accurate, or this isn't actually how it works on the front lines, I guess.
Correct. Fully agree with that. And also you have the ability to implement polls and surveys during the content. And for example, you can stop a video after 2 minutes and ask what do you think so far? Is it covering the information needed to know blah blah blah? And then you can have also implemented along a course or along content some surveys and polls to cover the need to know how the field's accepting this content.
Okay. Got it. Well, and going back to something you mentioned, I think when you first were talking about it, I think what was interesting, and we've demystified or decoupled some of these things, but I think one of the things that is valuable in what you said, that regardless of where you are or what you're working on in our field, one of the opportunity areas I see is the speed at which we can do things, right? The speed at which we can do things. And it's easy, depending on your role, sometimes things don't move that fast. But I think your point about the front lines is an important one, where things do move that fast. Like, things are moving at a much more rapid pace, and the whole, well, it's going to be 3 months before we can reach that audience with this information. It's just not acceptable. You may be able to get away with that in certain environments, but in others, that has massive risk to the organization to not be able to, push and reach those people with critical elements with that level of speed.
Exactly.
I want to say something about speed, because when we ask customers or partners why you're working with Enabley, why you choose Enabley and not other competitors, so they're saying 4 things. One of the 4 top things they're saying is speed. And when we say speed, it's across many points in regards to Enabley. First, it's the speed of content creation, and we didn't mention we have also automation around that. So if you upload, for example, a presentation, the system can create automatically suggested questions based on the presentation that you have uploaded. So we are giving also tools to rapidly create content. So talking about speed, you can find it in several ways. We would like our users to quickly create content and distribute it quickly. Also, going live. Many of our customers are going live really quick. If you have already some raw materials to be uploaded, you can go live within days. And many of our customers are doing that. And the responsiveness of the company, this is in another topic. If we ask our customers why us, we are very responsive, because we are not big enough I would say we're big enough to be responsible, yet small enough to be responsive to our customers. Okay. And we feel it all the time.
Okay. Got it. So speed is not just part of, it sounds like it's part of the culture. It's part of the culture of the platform is, we're looking at things from a speed standpoint. How do we speed things up? So then from an automation standpoint, there's some stuff happening behind the scenes then as well that's feeding that automation, because that's not a person sitting there looking at this, making these recommendations. You've got natural language processing, things like that are actually analyzing this stuff and then making recommendations to help automate and speed this up.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. It's also
well, and what's funny is the point that I was going to go with that, and again, I can stop there, Edu, if you have something that you want to add to it from a capability standpoint.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say a few more words about this. What Udi talked about in regards of speed, and we called it magic content. So like the questions are magically being created, just based on the presentation, right? You got some PowerPoint slides, you upload them, and the system analyzes them. And at the beginning when this idea, by the way, this idea was born in a hackathon that we had a couple of years ago. Yeah, 1.5 years ago. Some people at first thought, wow, it's a great gimmick, it's cool, right? It's like AI. I don't like saying AI too much because, it's like,
that's why I said I didn't want to go into it.
We're cutting through the fluff, right? We're cutting through the fluff here, right?
Yep, we're cutting through it.
Cutting through it. So I don't like saying it, but there I said it. Anyway, the point is that this serves a purpose, right? It's not just there for being cool, for being, innovative, just for the sake of innovation. And it serves the user, right? So the user, this is let's remind ourselves, this is a person that is responsible for some domain in the company. It could be very narrow. It could be a little bit broader, and now has this knowledge that it's, let's face it, usually it's not rocket science, right? It's, you have to know A, B, and C to know how it affects your job, to know how to apply it to your day-to-day job, and you need to know it now, right? And then he needs to, or she needs to, make that knowledge accessible to some audiences, internal, external audiences, throughout the company. And so you have this presentation. Anyway, you created these few slides to explain that topic, and now you have to come up with questions. And we saw that many of our customers, they don't take, the users, they don't take the time to create those interactions. So it's so tempting to just send it out, right? Just push it out.
Yep. Yeah.
But then you have two problems. First, the only insight that you get back is, did people stare at your content? Okay, they stared at it, they scrolled. Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's nice to know about that, but you when it's important for your, for the bottom line of your company to know that your people out there really understand it, then it's not enough. It's simply not enough. So you got to ask them something. And the other side of this is, if the content is not engaging, is not interactive, if you as a learner don't have to do anything, then you learn less, right? Everybody, we all know that, right? If you just watch a 10-minute video and don't have to interact with it, it is less effective than having to interact in the middle. So this is passive
vs being active.
Exactly, active, being active, and we came up with this happens to be cool feature that really made that possible. Yeah.
Well, the thing about it though, and I think it's a good point, is, and I try and make this clear with a lot of things, is that technology, if done with a purpose and adding value to something, is when it matters. If you're chasing it for the sake of chasing it, that's where you have issues, which is again why I talk about AI or some of these other technologies carefully, because you can go down a path and chase it for the sake of chasing it, and then that's not doing anything. But I think what's interesting about what you talked about this is there's a couple things. One, the AI is actually adding value in the sense that, one, it's speeding things up, right? It's speeding things up because it's taking some of the rote, boring stuff that you have to do and saying, hey, let us take care of that really quick, while still keeping you in the loop. If I'm understanding right, the AI is not just doing this, but it's doing this and then giving some feedback almost to say, hey, here's some things that you may want to think about or you may want to add, and empowering that person to say, okay, that makes sense, or I might need to tweak it, or things like that. But again, ultimately, in some ways, almost upskilling your subject matter experts on how to think differently about it. Yes, you could record a 3-minute video or just dump a PowerPoint and push out, but that's not going to be as effective. And we as learning people can't chase around every single subject matter expert. So then let's let the technology give them those nudges and guide them along the way to make them better and improve the content that they're creating.
That's correct. Also, what we found in regards to what you're saying now is that, for example, releasing product update, software update is usually look the same. So we decided to build templates that will speed up also the structure of the content, not just the specific video questions, so on and so forth. For example, there is a template for different use cases. You are building now an update of regulation for blah, blah, blah. Here is a template. You can put in here this and that, and then it's going to look this way. So it's taking someone that is not very familiar with content creation, non-instructional designer persona, and makes him release something that is good enough to be released for the end users in the other side.
I like that you say good enough, right? And in some ways, some people that'll set them off because they'll be like, what? It can't be. But sometimes it's like, no, it's speed is more important, and reaching these people with things is more important than creating the perfect right thing, especially because sometimes this stuff doesn't have a shelf life long enough to justify the effort to doing all this stuff.
Exactly. Exactly. Now you can invest time and use different capabilities to create something fancy, but I would say this is not the core idea of what we are discussing now. So you're right about
No.
yeah.
So
Yep,
I
you
think
can do
another
it. And the other thing that's interesting that I sometimes see because we're on the automation piece, right? We're talking a little bit about automation and how AI is helping automate some of these things. Sometimes that can feel a bit threatening to people in learning and development, right? It can be a little like, well, that's my job. My job is to create content. My job is to do these types of things. And the reality with that is, I have never met anyone who said, we are able to create all the content that we would ever need at the speed that we need to do it. I've never seen an organization and an L&D function in that capability. But what this does is, instead of threatening your value, the two things that you hit on was, one, the instructional designers are still involved in kind of saying, hey, consistently, like, we use this, so we should have some templates to, again, speed this up. You're getting the data to help inform your SME. So your role is still valuable, but now you're able to reach a much broader audience at a much faster pace that now is actually adding tremendous value back to the business, versus you as the L&D organization being a bottleneck, trying to force everything to have to go through you. And now you're actually slowing down business instead of actually enabling it. See what I did there?
Exactly.
Nice
And I want to give another interesting example, like a slightly different aspect, but the same thing of speed. And we noticed that some of our customers, especially customers, companies that are, they have a certain product, and they have people manning a contact center and support agents and customer success agents that they have this like knowledge base, right? Like a help center that explains customers, their users, how to use their software or whatever. And every time that there is something new, so there would be this person that is responsible for updating the knowledge base, right? The knowledge base help center, and creating articles and documenting it there. Yeah. And then there was sometimes the same person, sometimes another person who created the training content for that, or updating the field, and copying and reusing that. And then we said, hey, this doesn't make sense. So what we developed is a connector to the knowledge base platform, enabling to create a content and then pull in dynamically these articles as the building blocks, and then just around that wrap it with embedded questions, embedded interactions, so it speeds up dramatically the time to the field of that content.
Right, we're hitting on speed.
Right, and also if you have in the knowledge base, if you have something that is updated, but like a new screenshot and new information that is updated, it is automatically then updated in all of those courses and streams where this content is being referred to. So it's dynamic, and this is the prism through which we are looking at, making things faster. And it serves exactly what you said, Christopher. The pace itself of change is getting faster and faster towards the singularity point, of course. But this is really something that characterizes the world of work today.
Much more these days, I would say. We saw it in the COVID-19. We doubled the volume of usage from quarter to quarter during 2020. We just doubled, and I'm not exaggerating here.
I have to imagine you did. And so but on that, going back to Ido's point, so on this, we're talking about then you're integrating, or at least some customers they're integrating with their knowledge management if they have something that exists, correct? So that, because I can see that's a risk where you're saying, oh, right, from a workforce standpoint, well, I usually do this for our knowledge management. This is where I do this. Now you're asking me to do it over here in this other system. And now you run into duplication risks where, oh, this one's up to date, this one's not. And so what people are doing then is integrating knowledge management into Enabley, so that, hey, you're pulling from your knowledge management database, you're augmenting that with additional instruction or guidance or whatever, and then pushing it out. It's reaching the field, but then you're only updating it, you're not really disrupting the flow of work that they're used to. You're just adding another layer to it. And then with automation, it's not even necessarily adding a ton of additional work.
Exactly.
Correct.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also you nailed it when you talked about the HR. When you talked about the HR as a bottleneck, I think you nailed it there as well.
Yeah.
We see it as one of the triggers for using Enabley in many cases.
Okay. Christopher, it looks like you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I've been told that from time to time. Okay. Well, so let's dig into this a little bit more, because I am curious. So one of the other questions Lizelle asked, she's got another one, and I'm curious. I'll frame it a little bit differently. But as organizations, because one of the things we typically are always trying to say is, hey, we've got this idea, we've got this concept of what we can do. How can we then translate that and show that we're actually having an impact? So whether it's a specific example you have, or in general, when organizations are saying, hey, we're doing this, how are they then going back, or even just continually kind of showing, hey, here's what we're actually able to do? Obviously, there's the engagement piece, but do you have some classic examples where you've said, hey, this is how an organization has really showcased that we've made a dramatic impact through this speed and ability to reach people quickly?
I have to say here something. First, we did it in several cases in the past where we connected to other systems. For example, connect to Salesforce to find correlation between training and sales, or training and some other performance. This is one piece. Now, we just won a few weeks ago a budget in the Innovation Center of the government of Israel to exactly dig in and develop this use case, to find the correlation, to have to develop tools and to map the correlation between training and the knowledge to performance of employees. And we are going to enhance this area, and we are going to bring some new, I would say, news to the world around that. But we are the capability to connect easily to other platforms and map the correlation between training and performance, and also having the ability to, in a formative way, getting the actionable insights we talked 20 minutes ago, not waiting till the end of the course. And during the course, having, or during a training, having insights and then react to them, you're impacting the results in a formative way and not in a summative way. And at the end, you can compare to other results in other platforms and use other KPIs and have correlation with our BI capabilities to map out the training vs performance. This is what we did with several customers.
Well, and I think one of the things that works well, especially on frontline workers and customer-facing workers, there tend to be a lot more metrics. There tend to be a lot more performance metrics that you can look at that are being measured on a regular basis. I've run call center learnings, I've run commercial learning, things like that, where it does, I don't want to say it's easy, because it's never necessarily easy to draw that direct line between the two, but it becomes easier because things are measured on a regular basis. I remember in a software company I worked in, it was easier for us to connect to the number of customer service inquiries that were coming in, or the speed to closing tickets. There just were more metrics that you could start to look at. Yeah. It can be a little bit harder sometimes in, corporate environments where you may not necessarily have these kind of continual corporate measures. But I think it's an important point as people are looking at measuring kind of the impact of
It's funny that you said measuring around the ticketing, tickets being closed, and because this is I would say one of the first use cases we're going to focus on, call centers and finding the performance around call centers employees, and finding the correlation of the trainings they've done.
Exactly. So I mentioned integrating to the knowledge base, and in many cases, it's the same platform, right? Like you have your Zendesk for managing the knowledge, and also as the help desk, right? And all these intercom and all these platforms that measure, right, the time to resolution, the CSATs, all these KPIs of customer-facing personnel, and then we're already linking to those systems, and then correlating back those KPIs is exactly what we're going to develop more and more. But I want also to get us a little bit, back on the ground just for a second. No, I mean, there is another layer that is maybe more trivial, but the first layer is the layer of engagement, right? Yes. And to the question, was it Lizelle, I think? Yes. To the question of showing the impact. So I think these are two levels. The first level is the impact, and when a customer sees that the content, the people are engaged more, and the coverage is higher, they're reacting faster, and so first of all, the engagement level goes up when the content is engaging, and when the platform is friendly and runs on every device, and when everything is accessible and fast and snappy. And then the layer on top of that is the actual knowledge, right? So when you see that, and of course, linking that to the real world is often a challenge. There's the whole, Kirk Douglas thing, Kirk Douglas. the dad of Michael.
Friday evening,
Friday evening.
So there's the Kirkpatrick model, right, of measuring the impact of the training, and this is a whole fascinating field, and we're starting with linking to those KPIs that matter for the business.
Okay. Well, so I told you we would run out of time. I tell people this every episode before we go live, that we will run out of time. They never believe me. They always think
we just started.
We can't fill an hour. I'm like, we will fill an hour, and we could fill another one if we needed to. But I think the piece that we can wrap a little bit on is this measurement piece, because it is an important one. And going back to this, a lot of times in the industry, I see this battle between engagement metrics are bad and they don't matter, and we should only care about business KPIs. I don't agree with that at all. There's a reason there's this whole spectrum of measurement that we look at. And when I look at measurement, I look at it as we're telling a story. That is the point of these metrics and why we need these different pieces, because they tell the full story. You can't have business impact if nobody's engaging. And engagement tells you important data on, was this relevant? Did people find it helpful? Is it actually reaching people where they need to go? If it's not, you need to address that, but you can't stop there. But it is an important piece of the story. And then you can take that story a step further by saying, what is the impact? How is it actually translating to what people are doing? Which then can lead to, did that impact the business or the outcome we were driving to? Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But then we can learn from that and then go back in our story and say, well, where is it that the breakdown occurred? So I think it is an important piece to say, you can't, to your point, it's not trivial. Engagement metrics are not trivial. Where it's trivial is if that's all you look at, that's where you stop, and then you never go beyond that. And I think that's the point that you've hit on with this, is that you're actually telling that whole story by connecting these different systems and these different use cases together.
Yeah. You need to overcome the first piece, make sure you deliver the knowledge, it's engaging, your audience engaged and consumed and understood, and they feel that it was beneficial for them. And then you did the first piece. Now you need to find how it impacts the business and the performance, and you need to find, if it breaks, where is the linkage or the chain that is broken.
Yes.
I agree with that. That's why we're implementing, I would say, several questions or surveys during the content to find, it was beneficial, what was missing, and that can loop back to what is need to be done in the training in order to impact the business afterwards.
Well, I don't think we could end on a better note than that. So this has been fantastic. Thanks everybody for watching, for your comments, your questions along the way. Hopefully we got everything answered and that you got something out of today's conversation. Thank you so much, Udi and Edu, for joining me on the show. This was a fun
Thank you,
conversation.
Christopher.
And I look forward to staying in touch. And thanks everybody. We'll see you again next week.